I cheated on my husband. With his own father. I never thought I was capable of this. I've always seen myself as a good person, a loyal wife, the kind of woman who keeps her vows no matter the temptation. I'm 29, married to Julian for 4 years, a man who's been my partner through every challenge life has thrown at us. Job losses, the stress of buying our first home, the quiet disappointment of not yet having the children we'd planned for. We met at a cafe in Paris 5 years ago, a rainy afternoon where he offered to share his umbrella as I stood shivering outside, my sketchbook soaked from the downpour. His laugh, warm and genuine, drew me in, and within months we were inseparable. A year later we married in a small ceremony in Provence, lavender fields stretching around us, his vows promising a lifetime of love and trust, his blue eyes shining with a sincerity that made me feel like the luckiest woman alive. Julian is kind, thoughtful, the kind of husband who brings me coffee in bed on weekends, who holds my hand through every anxiety spiral, who dreams aloud about the family we'll have one day. I love him, or at least I thought I did. But one night I crossed a line I can never erase, a line so dark, so unthinkable, that it's shattered everything I thought I knew about myself. Because the man I betrayed him with wasn't a stranger, wasn't a coworker or a friend. It was his own father, Mr. Laurent, and the weight of that secret threatens to destroy everything I've built. It all started when Julian and I moved in with his parents for a few months while we renovated our house in Montmartre. The house, a charming but crumbling fixer-upper, needed more work than we could handle while living in it. New plumbing, rewiring, a kitchen that hadn't been updated since the 1970s. So we packed up our lives and moved into the Laurent family home, a sprawling villa on the outskirts of Paris, surrounded by manicured gardens and ivy-covered walls. Julian's parents welcomed us warmly, his mother bustling about with homemade bean stew, his father shaking my hand with a firm grip, his smile wide and disarming. Mr. Laurent, Charles as he insisted I call him, was 52, a retired architect with a commanding presence, his salt and pepper hair framing a face that carried the rugged charm of a man who'd lived fully. He was confident, charismatic, everything Julian wasn't. Where Julian was soft-spoken, introspective, and gentle, Charles was bold, assertive, the kind of man who filled a room with his laughter, who told stories of his travels to Morocco and Brazil with a twinkle in his eye that made you hang on every word. At first, it was just harmless conversation. Dinners around the family table, Charles asking about my work as an illustrator, complimenting my sketches with a sincerity that made me blush, sharing glasses of Bordeaux as we discussed art, travel, the beauty of Paris in the fall. I told myself it was nothing, just a friendly dynamic with my father-in-law, a man I'd come to admire for his wit and wisdom. But then the way he looked at me started to change, his gaze lingering a little too long when I walked into the room, his eyes tracing the curve of my neck when I wore my hair up, a knowing smile playing on his lips when I caught him staring. And the worst part? I liked it. I liked the way his attention made me feel. Seen, desired, alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. Not since the early days with Julian when passion still burned bright between us. The night everything went wrong came 3 weeks into our stay, a chilly October evening when Julian went out with friends to a local pub, leaving me alone in the house with Charles. Julian's mother had gone to visit her sister for the weekend, and the villa felt cavernous without her bustling energy, the silence amplifying the tension that had been building between Charles and me. I was in the living room, curled up on the leather sofa with a book, a fire crackling in the hearth, when Charles appeared with a bottle of fine red wine and 2 glasses, his smile warm but edged with something dangerous. "Care to join me, my dear?" he asked, his voice low, and I nodded, my heart racing as he sat beside me, closer than necessary, his thigh brushing mine as he poured the wine. We talked, the conversation flowing easily at first, about the renovation, about Julian's childhood, about the sketches I'd been working on, but with every sip of wine, the air grew heavier, charged with an unspoken desire neither of us dared to name. When he touched my leg, his hand resting just above my knee, his fingers warm through the thin fabric of my leggings, I should have pulled away, should have stood up and walked out, should have remembered the man I'd promised my life to. But I didn't. I froze, my breath catching, my skin tingling under his touch, and when I looked into his eyes, dark brown, intense, filled with a hunger that mirrored my own, I felt a pull I couldn't resist. One thing led to another, a blur of stolen glances and whispered words, and suddenly we were in his bedroom, the door locked, the air thick with the scent of his cologne and the musk of desire. I was in his bed, the sheets cool against my skin, his hands on my hips, his lips on my throat, my fingers tangled in his hair as I moaned his name. Charles. My voice a betrayal that echoed in the quiet room. The moment was intoxicating, forbidden, a rush of adrenaline and desire that drowned out the guilt, his touch firm and commanding where Julian's was always gentle, his whispers in my ear promising things I'd never dared to want. I surrendered completely, my body trembling under his, the world narrowing to the heat between us, the rhythm of our breaths, the forbidden dance we'd stumbled into. The next morning I woke up in a panic, the reality of what I'd done crashing over me like a tidal wave. I was still in Charles's bed, his arm draped over my waist, his breathing steady as he slept beside me, the scent of him on my skin a cruel reminder of my betrayal. I slipped out quietly, my heart pounding as I crept back to the guest room I shared with Julian, my hands trembling as I showered, scrubbing my skin raw to wash away the evidence of my sin. What had I done? I'd slept with my husband's father in his own home, under the roof we all shared, a betrayal so deep, so unforgivable that it made my stomach churn with nausea. But the worst part? I didn't regret it, not fully. The memory of Charles's touch, the way he'd made me feel, desired, reckless, alive, lingered like a drug in my veins, a high I couldn't shake even as the guilt gnawed at me. Julian came home a few hours later, his smile bright as he kissed me, his lips soft and trusting, completely unaware of the betrayal that had unfolded while he was gone. "Missed you, my beautiful," he said, pulling me into a hug, his warmth a comfort I didn't deserve, his love a knife in my heart. I forced a smile, my voice hollow as I told him I'd missed him too, my eyes darting across the room to where Charles stood, leaning against the doorway, a mug of coffee in his hand, his gaze locked on mine. There was a flicker of something in his eyes, desire, amusement, a shared secret that bound us. And I knew in that moment that this wasn't over, that what we'd started couldn't be undone with a single night of shame. The affair that never should have happened continued, a dangerous dance we couldn't resist, a fire that burned brighter with every stolen moment. We kept finding excuses to be alone. Charles offering to help me with errands while Julian worked late, me volunteering to stay behind when Julian and his mother went to the market, the two of us carving out pockets of time in a house that felt too small to hold our secret. There were secret touches when no one was looking. His hand brushing mine as we passed in the hallway, his fingers grazing my lower back when he reached for something on the counter, the heat of his touch sending shivers down my spine. There were late-night encounters in the guest room while Julian slept down the hall, the door locked, the silence of the house amplifying every whisper, every sigh. One night, after Julian had gone to bed early, Charles knocked softly on my door, his eyes dark with intent as he stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "I can't stop thinking about you," he whispered, his voice rough, and I didn't stop him as he pulled me close, his lips on mine, his hands sliding under my nightgown, my body responding with a hunger I couldn't control. We moved to the bed, the springs creaking softly as he pressed himself against me, my fingers digging into his shoulders, my breath hitching as we surrendered to the desire that had consumed us. It was dangerous, it was wrong, so wrong, but it was addictive, a thrill that made my heart race, a secret that made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in years. Another time, in the kitchen late at night, I was washing dishes when he came up behind me, his hands on my hips, his lips on the back of my neck, his whispers hot against my skin as he turned me around, lifting me onto the counter, my legs wrapping around him as we kissed, the danger of being caught only heightening the intensity. Every touch, every glance, every stolen moment was a betrayal, a dagger in Julian's heart he didn't even know existed, and yet I couldn't stop, couldn't pull away, couldn't extinguish the fire that Charles had ignited in me. The affair ended when we finally moved out, our house in Montmartre ready after months of renovation, the walls freshly painted, the floors gleaming, a new chapter we were supposed to start together. Leaving the Laurent villa felt like a chance to break free, to leave behind the sin I'd committed, to rebuild the life I'd promised Julian. I told Charles it was over, that we couldn't continue, that I had to be the wife Julian deserved, my voice shaking as I stood in the garden, his eyes searching mine for a truth I couldn't give him. He nodded, his jaw tight, but there was a flicker of something in his gaze, regret, longing, a promise that this wasn't truly the end. We moved into our new home, Julian and I threw myself into our marriage, trying to be the woman I'd vowed to be, cooking his favorite meals, planning date nights to the Seine, holding him a little tighter, hoping that love could heal the wounds I'd inflicted on myself, on us. But sometimes when I'm alone, when Julian is at work or asleep beside me, I still crave Charles's touch, the memory of his hands on my skin, his voice in my ear, his body pressed against mine in ways that Julian will never know. My husband has no idea that his father knows me more intimately than he ever will, that Charles has seen a side of me Julian never will, a side that craved the forbidden, that reveled in the danger, that betrayed the man I love for a thrill I can't forget. And the worst part? If given the chance, if Charles walked through my door tomorrow, his eyes dark with that same hunger, I'd do it all over again, consequences be damned, because that fire, that desire, is a part of me I can't fully bury, a part of me that still burns beneath the ashes of my guilt. I think about the life Julian and I had, the life we're trying to build, and it tears me apart. I remember the mornings we'd wake up in our old apartment, tangled in each other's arms, the sun filtering through the curtains, Julian's hands gentle on my skin as we made love, slow and tender, his whispers in my ear, "I love you always," making me feel cherished like I was the center of his world. I remember the nights we'd spend on our tiny balcony, a bottle of wine between us, him telling me stories of his childhood while I sketched the city skyline, the lights of Paris twinkling below us. I remember the way he held me after we learned I wasn't pregnant again, his arms strong around me as I cried, his voice steady as he promised we'd keep trying, that we'd have a family someday, that we'd be okay. I remember our wedding day, the way he looked at me as I walked down the aisle, his eyes shining with love, his vows promising a lifetime of devotion, a lifetime I'm now betraying with every memory of Charles, every lingering thought of what I did. Those memories feel tainted now, every smile a reminder of my betrayal, every touch a lie I don't deserve, every moment a dagger in my heart that twists deeper with every passing day, every quiet night, every unanswered prayer for forgiveness. The guilt is a constant ache, a shadow that follows me everywhere, a weight that grows heavier with every sunrise. I see Charles sometimes, at family gatherings, at Sunday lunches when Julian insists we visit his parents, his presence a reminder of the sin we share. He looks at me with a knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement of our secret, and I look away, my hands trembling, praying Julian doesn't notice the tension, praying Charles doesn't say something that will unravel everything. Julian notices my unease sometimes, asks if I'm okay, his concern deepening my shame, his voice gentle as he brushes a strand of hair from my face, his touch a reminder of the love I don't deserve, a love I've stained with my actions. I'm fine, I lie, forcing a smile, my voice hollow, my heart breaking as I speak, and he believes me because he trusts me, because he loves me, because he has no reason to doubt me, no reason to think I'm anything less than the woman he married. But I'm not fine. I'm a liar, a cheater, a woman who's destroyed the best thing she ever had, a woman who's betrayed the man who loves her with a man he trusts more than anyone, his own father. I think about confessing, spilling everything, every stolen touch, every late-night encounter, every lie, begging for forgiveness, letting the truth set me free or destroy me if that's what it takes, but I can't. I can't bear the thought of Julian looking at me with disgust, of him walking away, of him confronting his father, of losing the only good thing I have left in my life, the only thing that keeps me grounded, the only thing that reminds me of who I used to be. So I keep my secret, let it fester, let it rot inside me, knowing it's the punishment I deserve, knowing it's the price I'll pay for the rest of my life, a price I'll pay in silence, in shame, in the dark of every sleepless night, every time I see Julian's trusting smile, every time I catch Charles's knowing gaze. Every night as Julian sleeps beside me, his arm around me, his warmth a comfort I don't deserve, a sanctuary I've defiled with my actions, I lie awake, the weight of my sins pressing down on me like a boulder, crushing me with every breath. I think about Charles, about the affair, about the guest room, about the lies I've told, the life I've tainted, the love I've betrayed. I think about Julian, about the man I've hurt, the man who loves me more than I'll ever deserve, the man who holds me close even now, unaware of the woman I've become, unaware of the monster I've let myself be. I'll carry this secret to my grave, a shadow I can't escape, a truth I'll never speak, a penance I'll endure in silence, a torment that will haunt me until the day I die. And maybe that's my fate, a life of silent suffering, a love I can never truly accept, a husband I can never truly deserve, a forbidden desire that burns beneath the ashes of my guilt, a sin that defines me more than I'll ever admit.